It has never been easier to buy anything you want with online shopping everywhere, including things you don't necessarily have the money for. Buy now, pay later options, they're also out there everywhere. They allow you to split up payments or delay payment, but not always the best idea. So here to talk about that is Jenny Groberg of Booksmart's Accounting. You want to discuss the downside of these buy now, pay later options. Let's begin by defining this, because it can be defined as just delaying payments altogether, but also splitting up payments. Talk about that.
Okay, so let me explain what buy now, pay later is. Let's say you want to buy a pair of running shoes.
Okay.
And you go to checkout, and the checkout says, enter your credit card information, or do you want to use Apple Pay, or you can use PayPal, or buy now, pay later. And the buy now, pay later will say, you can break out the shoe payment into 4 equal payments. So instead of paying $200 for a pair of running shoes, you can make 4 equal payments of $50. So I think a lot of people think, oh, that's a great idea. I'm just going to, instead of losing all $200 of cash right then, I'll break it out, and that will help my cash flow.
Well, it says interest free, so why is it not a good idea?
It's not a good idea because people forget about it. They forget about it, or they forget that they have multiple purchases. I think it also kind of takes away the sting of purchases and of cash leaving your account. So people tend to overspend. So that's another problem. There's estimates that close to $160 billion is being used in buy now, pay later credit. That's a ton of money. So there's secondary consequences, and we'll talk about that. But essentially 20% of the population is using buy now, pay later.
There's some things we have on the screen right now. So it encourages people to spend more, essentially.
Yeah, it does.
Because, I can break this up. That means I can buy something a little more expensive.
Yeah, and then with one retailer, they may do a buy now, pay later, and another realtor, or with one,
retail person, basically.
Thank you, Lincoln. Yeah. With one retailer, you can buy something. Another retailer, you buy another thing. And you forget that you have all of these things moving until the payments start coming through. And the problem is you forget that you've made all these purchases, and your bank account, you start getting hit and drafted with these payments. And then sometimes you're not able to meet your rent, or you're not able to do your groceries or pay for your gas. So then people turn to credit cards, which, you're looking at 30% interest or somewhere close to that. So the problem is the money ends up leading to greater debt.
Yeah. I like this point. It promotes impulse buying and overspending with wanting that instant gratification.
Retailers know that if they can get you to make the purchase pretty fast, there's a higher likelihood of you completing the purchase. I'll often put something in a shopping cart and wait at least 24 hours. In fact, I have that rule with my kids when they say, I want to buy this on Amazon. Get me this on Amazon. And I say, let's wait at least 24 hours. Trying to talk them out of it, or making sure, these $10 pens are actually worth it and they should use their allowance for it or whatever. So I think it's important to make sure that you wait. And buy now, pay later just encourages a faster purchase. Yeah. And so 20% of people it's 50% of people are saying, I made an impulse purchase, I wouldn't have bought that, or I regret buying that, or I overspent. So that's quite a bit of buyer's remorse, 50%.
There's plenty of things I've bought, and later on I'm like, why did I buy that?
Yeah.
And I think that happens to all of us.
Yeah.
And like you said, if you do start to miss those payments, the consequences then can really start to add up, right?
There's another complication with returns. Returns can kind of create a cash flow nightmare. You might return it, but it might take a minute for the servicer of the buy now, pay later to know. And so they may still draft another payment before you get the credit. So that can create some disruption.
And then talk about, this is what you always want to educate all of us on all the time. You want to build real wealth in your life. This type of thing, you're saying that kind of works against that.
Yeah, because people are spending money that they don't have. And I say that because you asked me why should people do it or not do it? And I said, well, if you can't afford to pay it all up front, you shouldn't be buying it. And then people forget that they have these, and you overspend. We already know that 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So don't use buy now, pay later. If you're going to pay for something, pay for it all up front. Make sure you have the money, use your debit card for it. But I think it just creates too much disruption, and people forget what's happening. Then they miss their actual bill payments. They might bounce their mortgage. It affects their credit. So it's just something that people lose sight of.
Now, obviously, a situation where we make payments on things, that happens in other parts of life. Give me an idea of when this might be appropriate. Not necessarily an impulse buy that you see on Amazon, but in some other realm of life, I guess.
So I would never say it's justified with buy now, pay later.
Okay.
I would say a mortgage.
Right.
That is an instance where you have, a payment. Most people can't afford to just go buy a home.
Right.
And we have other segments on, how do you know how much to spend on a home? What percentage of your income? And so, people can look at that. But a home, in my opinion, is something that I can justify or explain why it's okay to have a monthly payment, as long as it's, 25% of your net income or less. So I think there's parameters. I think it's helpful to I think a lot of people aren't educated in buy now, pay later or what it means. And I would just say altogether, do not use it.
Jenny, you give us a lot of good advice. Do you ever fall victim to some of these things
I've
too?
never used buy now, pay later.
Really? Okay.
Ever.
Have you been tempted to ever?
Never.
Okay.
Never. Because I think I didn't know enough about it, or I worry, what exactly does this mean? But I, can assume it's just, extended debt or credit, and I don't need one more thing to keep track of.
Right.
So that's ultimately why I would never, want to utilize that service, but ultimately you shouldn't be using it for purchases, and people really need to steer away from credit to make purchases. Use cash, use your debit card. There's a time and a season for travel. I would say for travel, use a credit card. Booking your hotel, make sure you have the amount of money you need in your check in a savings account. But, if you have any problems, we had a rental car that got a rock chip, and the rental company charged us $1,000 for the windshield.
Oh my gosh.
And with my credit card, I was able to, my American Express
there was
covered
some protection
the
there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So things like that, I would say, yes, use a credit card for the essentials like flights, hotels, rental cars on your credit card. Otherwise, you should use a debit card.
And they do make these buy now, pay later options very easy and very tempting. I don't know how many online checkout things I've been in where it says, split up the payment with Affirm or whatever other company is offering the same type of a thing. So it hasn't always, they've definitely become more prevalent, right?
Yeah, it has been more prevalent, and people they're using it. 160 billion in the US is being used on this type of credit. And, people are hurting right now. They're hurting with gas prices. They're hurting with cost of living increases. So this is just one easy thing to just say, okay, this is going to help me stay aligned and be able to pay my bills. Just keep it out of sight, out of mind. And I would say with your Apple Pay is so convenient. Delete all of your credit cards on your Apple Pay. This is something I recently did, and just have your debit card on there. Because it is easy to just say, okay, I'm going to use my credit card on this, Apple Pay, done. So, and I would also encourage people to wait at least 24 hours before making a purchase.
That's the last thing I wanted to have you touch on again. So that does help. How does that help the brain?
It's the emotion piece.
Okay.
Where people feel like this purchase is going to fill an emotional need for them. Clothing might make you look more handsome or more beautiful, or you want to stand out, or maybe, you really want a hot bod, so you need the exercise equipment. My son came to me and said, Mom, I want to buy this app that helps me track my macros and it gives me workouts. So for him, I can see that he's wanting to fill that need of getting in better shape or whatever.
Okay.
If you can wait 24 hours, you can take some of that emotional piece out of it and say, is this actually smart? Do I still have that heightened emotion to buy this? And a lot of times, the purchasing impulse will go down.
Okay. Jenny Groberg with Booksmart Accounting, thank you so much. We always appreciate you educating us so we can build wealth.
Yeah,
definitely.
Ultimately, that's what we need.
Okay, appreciate you coming in. Thanks so much.